Yeah. That's what it is. Okay. All right. I apologize for the late beginning of the ad hoc committee to end poverty in Los Angeles. However, council ran over, had a couple of items that took a long, long time. So believe me, I would have rather been up here, but I was down there. So thank you so much for your patience. I'd like to move forward very quickly with our agenda. I don't want to take any more time than we've already taken. But we have a great opportunity to expedite the processing of applications for people who qualify for a variety of low-income programs. Marissa put together this package of applications. If you were to file every application in the city of Los Angeles that qualify for low-income programs, I just can't imagine anybody filling out these applications. Well, this one is this looks like a proposal. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so the whole idea, it reminds me of when I was chair of the Public Works Committee about 10 years ago, and the applications for minority business person or minority or woman business organizations, the application process meant that if you wanted to compete for different departments in the city, you had to go file an application with each department. There were 33 different applications just to say that you were a woman-owned business or a minority-owned business to qualify for certain benefits of those designations. And so we collapsed it into one, where you just file an application with the Bureau of Contract Administration, and it applies to all the departments, including Department of Water and Power, the airports, and the harbor. And it just seemed to be so logical. And we're here again, particularly where we're trying to advocate on behalf of those who are struggling, low-income folks in particular, who qualify for these benefits that they can derive. It just seemed that we needed to come up with a system where it would make it a lot easier for them to qualify. Why should they have to go to DWP to qualify for a low-income rate, then the Bureau of Sanitation to qualify for the rate? Ironically, those two are on the same bill, and then they have to go to a different department. So our idea is to collapse it all into one application process that is respected and used by all the departments for the various programs, and even outside the city of Los Angeles governmental function as well. So we absolutely believe that we need a web-based service enrollment system for once and for all for the low-income folks of Los Angeles, and it's one small step in the equation to end poverty in Los Angeles. Who knows? By doing that, it might end poverty for somebody that is able to use that system. So with that, I'd like to ask the department speakers to step forward. We have Manny Chavez from CDD, Sally Richmond, the Housing Department, Mickey Yanamini, did I say it? Yanamine? Department of Water and Power, John Fong from the Department of Transportation, Helen Valenzuela from Metro, MTA, okay. I thought it was just a Metro person. I didn't. Joy Ori from the Office of Finance, Jorge Santi Esteban from the Department of Public Works, Bureau of Sanitation. Basically, we just wanted to hear from you. What is your current application process?
Good afternoon, Manny Chavez with CDD. As you're aware, Councilman, we manage the work source centers for the city of Los Angeles, as well as the one source centers that offer services to our youth residents. And most recently, we are moving to modify our existing human services delivery system into a more consolidated one-stop system that essentially replicates that of our work source model. In the work source system, we're envisioning, or actually will serve approximately 170,000 individuals this year, individuals that are looking for work, that will actually come through the doors of our 17 centers seeking employment, or at least assistance with finding employment. And we're hoping through the redesigned human services delivery system to have about 50,000 city residents walk through those 21 sites that we're proposing to have established. As we're currently structured, when an individual walks through the doors of one of our centers, any referral to other county services, city services, is essentially a verbal referral. So you may qualify for some service, and then you're referred down the street to go meet, let's say, with the county to qualify for food stamps. In reviewing the One app model, what we have discovered, as you mentioned, is that it essentially pre-qualifies folks for a variety of services. So we could see any one of those 170,000 individuals that walk through our WorkSource Center doors, as well as the other 50,000 that are coming through our Family Source Centers. Essentially, all of them could enter information into the One app application and pre-qualify for these other services. Additionally, we would hope to have the eligibility for our own programs, WorkSource and OneSource, as well as the Family Source programs, included in the One app application, so that when individuals go to other locations and enter that information into that database, that it would pre-qualify them for our services as well. We have had a number of meetings with the folks from One app. We are definitely interested in pursuing a formal relationship with them. We have identified some resources both in our workforce investment and community services block grant funds to move forward with further discussions.
What kind of modifications do you have to make?
To the system
Do you
itself?
anticipate? Yeah.
Well, currently with One app, it doesn't pre-qualify any individual for either our WorkSource or OneSource programs. So there are, for example, in workforce investment, specific eligibility requirements. So we would propose to work with the One app folks to have those eligibility requirements built into the One app model, so that it would essentially populate our eligibility forms.
Okay. So now, if somebody came directly to you, would they then be able to qualify for the other program?
That would be the ideal, so that any individual that walks through our doors, the first thing we would do with them is have them go through the One app system to determine what services they're eligible for citywide.
Now, is the One app application more onerous than the application process you have? Or is it about the same? Or
I would say it's similar in terms of the general intake information. WI is very complex, so we ask for mountains of information. And even on our community development block grant programs and community services block grant programs, they're fairly intense as well in terms of the data we collect. So, and much of it is similar information, though. So if we can get forms populated by entering it once, it'll help us in simplifying our intake process as well.
now, would it also resolve issues of duplication of services?
Yes, because if we have the system to where it would pre-qualify them for WorkSource, let's say, when that individual comes to a WorkSource center, they could tell us that they've already entered the information into One app, so we would have a lot of it already. And so the case manager, the intake person that typically collects the information wouldn't have to ask for it again. It would already be on the form. So again, that duplication would be avoided to an extent.
Great. Housing?
Hi, Sally Richmond.
Hi, Sally.
We currently implement all of our programs through third-party contractors. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund puts out notices of funding availability. Developers apply, they build the housing, and they have their own waiting lists. They take applicants. Often thousands of people show up for a new development that has maybe 40 units or something. So they all maintain their own waiting lists. Manny referred to the community development block grant, the federal requirements. So there are lots of inclusions and exclusions and so forth. Then other programs are home buyer programs. They go first to the lenders. They get pre-qualified. We review and look at all of their documentation, tax returns, and things like that. And there's a lot of back and forth between the lender and the potential borrower and us. And again, a lot of different documentation that's required. For our handy worker program, we use contractors. The people go, they can look at our website or whatever, see the income limits. So our website has information. We have flyers about income limits, but then they pre-qualify. They apply. with the vendors, with the contractors. So it's not immediately apparent exactly what this would add to that, because unlike the health programs and so forth, that One EAP looks like a great application. I mean, it's impressive what they're doing. But for those programs, if you sign up and you're eligible, you can start getting the benefit. And with the housing, there's no guarantee you're going to get the housing. You could be put on a waiting list somewhere. It's good to know what you're eligible for. It's definitely important for people to know what are they entitled to. Whether they can get it is another question. So we're certainly willing to look at it to see, but because the housing that's built is really managed by third parties, by for-profit and nonprofit developers who have their own waiting list procedures and so forth, I'm not sure how it would work interaction-wise. But certainly if the city were to use a One EAP system, I mean, we could provide the information on income limits and the kind of housing they might be eligible for, so at least they could get that kind of information. For the homeless services, they have a separate system that HUD makes them use called the Homeless Management Information System, so that once somebody enters the system, all their information is entered, and they've created swipe cards with the LA Homeless Services Authority, so that whenever they go to a new service, they swipe that in. And that's kind of to understand for policy reasons, and also for individuals, what are people accessing, what do they need, and so forth. So
couldn't you require your contractors to use the One EAP system?
Well, I think that we could potentially. You mean the handiworker contractors? I don't know if we
specifically handiworker programs, but the other contractors as well.
Well, I think we would need to discuss it with them, because we'd have to see what value is added by this. Really, because I think the applications are probably there would have to be. We would have to get all the information that they need, which is the income inclusions, exclusions, and so forth, all the federal requirements for HUD programs, which aren't necessarily built into the One EAP system now. So, and I think also there needs to be a dialogue with the housing community, because so what would the result be, I guess, is the question. So somebody would find out, they could get on a list for housing, okay.
No, well, they might, it depending on how the application is done, they would see, okay, all the clients that you work with typically have a multitude of problems, multitude of concerns, needs, and it seems to me that just by filling out the application, they would learn of all these other entities that they may be eligible for, that they're not now using. And all they fill it out one time, and then they find out. For example, if you included the handiworker program on there, somebody who's applying for CDD or the general relief might find out there's a handiworker program that they might be able to work for. I don't know. It just seems that that the whole idea is if we can put everybody in on one list that would have access to all these programs, it would almost act as a clearinghouse. We're going to stick around for the presentation from the One EAP folks, because they would have some answers. But it just seems to me that it's worthwhile for us to explore, rather than having them go to all these different departments. What would you then do? Refer them to WIC and refer them to?
Well, no, that's not our role. I mean, so I definitely.
But you do have a responsibility to monitor, to make sure that these people are actually doing it. And if there's an established system with with a tracking method that you can hold them accountable to, then you can easily verify. I don't know what system you're using now to verify that people are eligible.
Well, we do site visits. We have to monitor. I mean, that's our requirement. That's our responsibility as. So
then, reducing the bureaucracy it would be a reason.
Potentially, it's definitely worth looking into. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So stick around. Let's see. We're going to have the people come up in a minute. Is Mickey from the Department of Water and Power here? Mickey Yanamine? Yonamine. Yonamine. Oh. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Mickey Yonamine, and my colleague is Melanie Chacon, and we represent the Department of Water and Power, and we administer the low-income discount program, but we also offer the discount for Lifeline. For low income, the customer does have.
Can you make sure she didn't leave?
For the low-income discount program, the customer does fill in an application. They also have to provide proof of income for the household. So there is some upfront verification that we do that they are income qualified, and then we put them on the rate. For Lifeline, the Office of Finance actually administers that program, but they provide us the customers that they vetted, and we put them on the Lifeline rate.
Have you looked at the One app?
Yes, we think there's benefit for all the city programs to be in one accessible location. In terms of, but we would like to work very closely to whoever the team is that will be doing that, so that we can make sure that our interface through our website and things like that mesh with what goes on there, because there are back-end things that we would have to do on our end. But we think there is value to have one location where all citizens can get information like that.
Great.
In terms of, so that's really one of the things that we would really stress, is to make sure that we're coordinated.
In discussing the qualifications for sanitation benefits and DWP, low-income status, the criteria is different. But
I'm sorry, for the Bureau of Sanitation?
yeah,
Actually, the discount is applied through the Department of Water and Power, and it's applicable to both DWP and the Bureau of Sanitation charges.
well, maybe I
So-
misspoke. The ordinance that sets the criteria is different, but they're applying it to everybody.
On the Lifeline, the senior citizen discount, residents are exempt from the solid resources fee. For the low
But they're
income,
not exempt in the ordinance.
okay.
I mean, it needs to be cleaned up. But the ordinance, what you are exempting people for is not as is stated in the ordinance.
I'll have to have the Bureau of Sanitation address that. I believe that it was in the ordinance for the senior citizen discount. It is not in the ordinance for the low income.
Could be.
Okay.
But I know that there was a major gap. And yet they're being recognized, right? Once you identify them as qualified for your programs, sanitation automatically,
Well, we bill the sanitation equipment charge and the sewer service charge, so the discount would be applied at that time.
you automatically apply it.
Right.
Okay. It needs to be fixed, because I'm not sure it's meeting its stated objectives. Sure, come on up. Yeah. Jorge?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon.
Not Stephen. From the Bureau of Sanitation.
Jorge Santiesteban with the Bureau of Sanitation. And I remember when you were the chairperson of the Public Works Committee and you did that, so that was a great thing. Regarding the Lifeline, as Melody mentioned, on the Lifeline, we do follow the guidelines. We have residents file an application with the Office of Finance. The Office of Finance reviews it, approves it, sends it to the Department of Water and Power, and the Department of Water and Power applies the Lifeline to both the Department of Water and Power and to the Bureau of Sanitation. And that is for senior citizens and residents with disability.
That's correct.
And low income?
I'm sorry?
And low income folks?
No.
They don't qualify.
On the bulky item fee, yes, but not on the solid resources fee.
We may want to go back and do that. I don't know. But, so in looking at the One app system, wouldn't it be easier, instead of having the finance department have to check everything, for them to fill out this other form that they're qualified for everything else? Wouldn't they automatically be eligible?
Well, our discount is tied to the account holder, so as Mickey had stated earlier, we look forward to working with the implementation team, but we would just need to make sure that all of the criteria that we need to meet based upon the 2002 and 2004 audits completed, that we would remain in compliance with what we needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great. Okay. Yeah, stick around. You want to listen to this other presentation as well. We have Helen Valenzuela. Is that MTA or? Oh, John Fung from DOT. Might as well come up at the same time.
I guess
Good
I'll.
afternoon.
Or you gonna go?
You go ahead.
My name is Anish Karula. I work with MTA. I work with Armene Saint, and I'm just going to give you a very brief.
You representing Helen Valenzuela?
I think she told us to come to the meeting. Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're the project managers for the program, so she asked us to
Okay.
present the project.
Okay.
This is basically regarding the Rider Relief Transportation Program, and the program began as a board motion by Supervisor Evan Burke and board member Bonnie Lowenthal in July of 2007. And the goal of the program was to provide relief or subsidy coupons as a form of assistance to those low-income or transit-dependent county residents who use public transit on a regular basis, but who were finding it very difficult to deal with the rate increases by Metro. The board earmarked funds to support this program, which is very similar to the Immediate Needs Transportation Program, which caters to those who have no regular method of getting around but have an immediate need, like a doctor's appointment, and use taxi vouchers as payment. What is different with the Rider Relief Transportation Program is that the main target population is the working poor or those who have hardship in commuting to work via bus or rail, and providing a subsidy for that trip. The program has four main categories in which riders can qualify. Regular rider, which is a $5 discount. Senior disabled rider, which is a $2 discount. College vocational student, which is $3 discount. And K through 12 students, which is a $2 discount. Additionally, participants have to meet two other requirements. They have to show proof of economic hardship, and that's based on their income and the number of people who live in their house or condo, apartment, etc. And they must also not receive an additional subsidy from either the city where they live, where they work, where they go to school, and that's to prevent multiple options or like double dipping, so to speak. Once a potential.
How do they? First of all, how do you do? How do they fill out the application? What do they do?
I have a sample application if you would like to see it. It's essentially they have to provide a driver's or a California ID that's current, and they have to just take it out.
Sure. Basically, they have to show proof of income or proof of benefits they're receiving, Lifeline or Medi-Cal or any information, any proof such as that.
And if they don't have that, then they have to fill out like an affidavit. It's essentially we have
Self-certification?
an affidavit that basically says that their income level that they do have economic
But
hardship.
essentially, it's a self-certification process,
Yeah,
where they certify with their affidavit
Yeah.
that they are
Yeah.
poor.
yeah.
Or they qualify. So it would seem to me that there would be a direct benefit to a one EAP system on both counts, where they wouldn't have to fill out an additional form, and you would know whether they're using some other system. I mean, if we got all the various systems on it, then you would know if they were double dipping, if you said.
Yeah, that's one of the major important parts of the program, is to make sure
Okay.
that we're reaching the right target population, and also to make at the same time to make sure that our subsidy benefits them and them only, and not they don't have an opportunity.
Describe the relationship with DOT these programs, and they're all sort of interrelated.
Well, I'm involved with the City Ride program, which is only open to city residents. Their program, of course, is open to county residents, anyone throughout the county. And they don't have particularly a senior or disabled requirement as we do in the City Ride program. Being a senior or disabled, you're qualified for the City Ride program, and if you either on Medi-Cal or on supplemental security income, that's the kind of documentation that we would require that the individual produce to us, and then we would qualify them as low income.
Do they have to fill out an application?
Yes, the application is a simple application of name, address, and that kind of thing. So they would provide, let's say, a copy of their old driver's license or some kind of government document that shows their age, or like a Metro disabled card that shows that they're disabled. Some kind of documentation.
And they self-certify?
It is certified by the documentation they produce.
So they self-certify?
Yeah, well,
They tell you how old they are? They tell
yes, yes.
I mean, you don't call DMV to find
No.
out? Okay.
We have a very small staff of 2. Hard to do anything with that.
Exactly why we need 1EF, where somebody would be less likely to change their age in an application that were for, a dozen different agencies, because they never know which one's going to check. But if it's just one agency and they're self-certifying and nobody ever checks, they might add a few years to get a ride. Same thing with many of these services. So on the one hand, we're trying to simplify the process of applying for these services and increasing the access for those who need it the most. The penetration rate needs to be upgraded. On the other hand, we're also protecting ourselves and developing a sort of ancillary benefit to give us some monitoring capability that we don't have individually. But collectively, we might be able to have that. All right, so are you interested in the 1EF?
Yes, certainly am.
Great. And you're interested
Yes,
in
we
1EF?
Yeah.
Wow, that's easy. Okay. Let's move on. Joy Ori from the Office of Finance and Jorge Santisteban, who is already up here. I don't know if you need to come up here, but you mentioned the Department of Finance, so
Joy Ori with Finance.
yeah.
Good afternoon.
Now, this is Public Works?
Office of Finance.
Public Works? Or is there a separate Office of Finance in the city?
No, Office of Finance was a spin-off under the charter reform from 2000. Previously, the tax and permit function was part of the city clerk's office.
So you're part of the city clerk's office?
No, I'm with Office of Finance.
Office of Finance is separate?
Office of Finance is now separate.
Oh, it's about time I learned that. Huh?
It's its own department.
Really? Huh. Okay.
Okay. So when the function's transferred,
So the Department of Sanitation goes to you to check the applications?
not really the sanitation. What happens is those that are filing for the Lifeline exemptions with the Department of Water and Power, those are processed by the Office of Finance. And both the Department of Water and Power and Finance have the applications available for those who wish to file, and they're available on our websites. Basically, this process started back in 1975 when the council adopted an ordinance exempting senior citizens. In 1979, it was expanded to include permanently disabled individuals. The annual income level falls under the Section 8 housing programs of the U.S. Housing Act of 1937, and presently the income level is not to exceed $30,300. As far as the statistics on what we've been processing on a calendar year basis, in 2007 it was 12,000 of these approximately. In 2008, 13,000, and we expect to process about 15,000 this calendar year because DWP has been promoting this opportunity. What basically happens is we receive the applications, and the applications include a self-certification statement, and we do need copies of the utility bills. because we have to capture the account numbers, the specific account numbers. And while there's room on the application for the person applying to write that information, it's more legible and accurate for us to take it directly off of the bills. The information is entered into a database that is housed at ITA. It's a very old system. And weekly, we provide a report of the information to DWP and some of the other utilities and phone companies and the gas company. And a monthly listing also goes over to DWP.
So you send it to the gas company?
Yes, let me get a list here.
They accept your certification?
Yes. And the certification also applies to water over at DWP, the water portion of the bill.
So, have you reviewed the 1AF system?
We had our staff attend the prior meetings. I have not seen it myself, but it does look like it would be a viable solution for finance. I think the other benefit that we see is we have several of our clerical staff working on this program, and we have backlogs in our workload related to revenue generation for the city. So it would help to free up that staff time to process the new business tax applications and some of the customer service items.
Okay. Is that what's the primary function of office finance? I apologize.
That's all right.
We are for 10 years and
we're your revenue collector, right? We're your general fund revenue collector. Our emphasis is on the business tax, the other taxes, the permits.
They just changed the name. Okay.
Right.
So instead of chasing scoundrels out there, you're filling out these applications or monitoring these applications?
We're not really doing any monitoring. We're more doing the processing on behalf of Water and Power.
Right. And it's a self-certification process, so I'm not exactly sure why you have to do it.
I think it was just, I can only guess at that, council member, but I think it may be connected to the city clerk's role in supporting council, and at the time the function was under the city clerk's office, so that may be how it came about.
But you'd think DWP could just do it themselves. This might be a budget discussion.
It could be.
Next. No, I'm serious. It seems to me that DWP has a little more revenue flexibility than the Office of Finance to manage this kind of program.
This is a utility tax
You
exemption.
blushed very prominently.
This is a utility tax exemption, and so it's not only applicable to Department of Water and Power, it's also for the telephone users tax and the gas company. So we're not the only ones who benefit. It's not a self-certification program. They do have to provide proof.
Ah, I see. Okay. Okay, well, we'll see. Thank you. Very good. Okay, let's talk to the 1EAP folks directly. We have Claudia Page and Bobby Wilbur.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us back to talk again about 1EAP, this time from a place of having had a couple of conversations that have helped us to learn a little bit more about some of the departments and some of the overlap with what we've been doing with 1EAP already in Los Angeles and elsewhere. So at the risk of repeating some of what we've shared before, I'm going to move diligently through some slides just to kind of get us on the same page and then invite questions and sort of react to whatever questions we get. Bobby, would you mind just flipping those? It's that. Yeah. So we don't need to.
Before you say anything.
Yeah.
You've met with many of these departments?
We've met with folks from the Department of Power and Water and the CDD, as well as some staff from your office and the mayor's office, and have conducted a couple of demos and toured a couple of the different facilities and talked with folks from the different facilities who've do some of the intake and application processes.
So I'd be very interested in the departments you haven't met with.
Yeah.
Particularly housing and and some of the others. Housing has a unique situation. And DWP, you might be able to resolve some of their issues. But, okay, I'll let you go ahead.
Great. Well, I don't need to reiterate the challenge because I think everyone here has articulated the challenge of access and also the challenge of the duplication of data entry, the maze of referrals for families, and the absence of system integration. We'll remind you that our goal is to develop a system that helps to reach more families, to alleviate some of those barriers to enrollment, and really to draw on partnerships and resources, and not, if one person is collecting information, to be able to use that information across departments and across agencies, ultimately leading towards a more integrated and efficient system. So OneEApp is a web-based application that you log into on the internet based on permissions that have been programmed into the system. You are allowed to take different pathways in the system. It is used right now in 10 California counties, including Alameda, Fresno. It's here in Los Angeles, Santa Clara, San Mateo, a couple of smaller rural counties. Last time we met, this wasn't the case. This time it is the case that OneEApp is used both by assisters. So if someone walks into a clinic or walks into a community-based organization, they can be helped by someone, but they can also now use it themselves at home or in public libraries or in school computer labs. And we're testing the technology on different kinds of kiosks in emergency departments. So that's an important and exciting new development, which has played out quite well where it's being used. The idea is that the information is put into the system and it's run then through a rules engine, which provides a simultaneous preliminary eligibility determination.
What did you say?
A rules engine. So you're going to enter information into a system, your name, your household information, your address, how many kids, income, all of that information is put into the system. When you click a button that says calculate, all of that information is taken and run through a sophisticated hierarchy of rules that applies screening logic so that we're first screening for programs like Medi-Cal, which you want to put your citizens in before you put them in any of your county-only programs.
So you call that a rules engine?
We call it a rules engine.
So when I was going to ask you the question, how do you distinguish the criteria in the housing department versus the criteria at DWP, this rules engine
That's key.
does all that thinking.
That's right.
For those of us that don't even know what a rules engine is.
That's right. And it may be the case that we're already collecting all of the data that's needed to determine eligibility, but we might not be applying the right rules because we don't have that program integrated into the system.
The housing department, for example, could just extrapolate off of that application the things they need.
That's right. They could look at it and say, or maybe the DPW is a better example. Oh, you need the account number off the bill. That's the only piece of missing data.
About Department of Public Works or Department of Water and Power?
Water and Power. Sorry. So we just need that account number, and then we know, okay, we have to add that data element. We got to collect a new piece of data. And then we need to say, oh, while this person might pay child care, those child care expenses don't get deducted from the overall gross income in this situation. For Medi-Cal, it does. For healthy kids, it does, but not for this program, or maybe it doesn't for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Easily.
Our goal in life is to look for ways to deliver the data electronically, and that isn't always possible, but it's what we're striving to do, and it's basically being able to take the data and interface it to back-end systems so you don't have to re-enter all of the data manually at the back end. We are looking and have had conversations with folks we've met with so far about where there may be opportunities to do that, because that's really where the efficiencies come in for the administrators in particular. I didn't put a bullet up here, but importantly, OneEApp stores all of this data as well as all of the documentation. So as you've been talking today and hearing from different speakers about what pieces of documentation are needed for one program versus another, those documents, scanned copies of those documents, are stored in the system. And someone with the right permissions can go in and view those documents. They can print a copy of the pay stub. They can print, a copy of the birth certificate or a driver's license. That seems to be
So where the participant has a requirement to have certain documents provided, you can actually have copies of those documents.
That's right. What the system does is once you've answered all those questions and
This sort of, it would seem to me it would alleviate a lot of the self-certification systems.
you would be able to use it in that way if you allow for the use of the copies of the documentation that's in there.
What do you call it? Verified certification? I don't know what you call it. Is because it just gets too complicated. But if we have a simple way to do that on a more regular basis, then we might be able to
Right.
have something with a little higher standard than a self-certification.
Well, you can.
The only issue you need to just be aware of in that kind of construct is that you still have to have a human being that looks at those documents. And I think a lot of times where your constraint in terms of time and capability is in actually, is this driver's license matching this lady that just applied or not?
Right.
And that's what takes the time. But in terms of storing it and in terms of gathering it, hopefully the applicant is doing that once, and then all the departments can share that information and use it so that the applicant doesn't have to show up at CDD and give their driver's license and then show up at...
Now, let me ask you, if so you get an applicant, a typical applicant will qualify for many different kinds of programs, but CDD is only asking you for certain kinds of information. Will the information, when that person's name goes in there and the application is filled out, will other opportunities trigger? I mean, for example, will they say you might want to check the handy worker program because they may be eligible?
What we try to do is build the information gathering process of the application to be what I'd call universal. So it's going to cover all the basic fundamental questions that you might ask regardless of what the program is. Then when we run the rules engine for it, it will say, gosh, it looks like first you might be eligible for Medi-Cal, or second you might be eligible for a local indigent program, or third you might be eligible for CDD. It's going to give the information about that to the applicant. If they choose to proceed with an application for that program, there will be additional information, specific information to that program that we're going to need to ask, for example, at CDD, potentially about their employment status and where they've checked and all of that kind of stuff. So there will be some additional follow-up questions that we'll ask to make sure that CDD has every piece of information they need to basically proceed forward with the applicant.
Now, you mentioned that you keep all that information.
That's right.
Where do you keep it and who owns it?
Right.
The applicant always owns the data. It's their data, and they give permission to the agencies that participate to actually utilize that data on their behalf. So while we have a fiduciary responsibility to store that data on behalf of the programs that we support, it's never our data.
They also give permission to share it. So one of the first things that happens when you are helping someone, or if they're doing it themselves, is a data sharing and consent screen comes up, and it says you're providing information that will be shared across a variety of agencies. Do you consent to have your information shared? And if you say no, you don't, then this is probably not the best way for you to apply for those programs. There's probably a reason why you need to go in and sit down.
Yeah, but let me come up with a specific example. Somebody applies for the handy worker program. And in their application, it's discovered that they qualify for the DWP discount. Would they automatically be? Is there a triggering mechanism where they can be notified that you might want to apply for this?
It is. It's actually automatic in the process, and if they were eligible for that, it would actually, depending on how we deal with those programs, whether it's electronic or paper, we'll either print the paper and send it to those groups, or it will be electronically submitted to them. And hopefully our goal is that it would be electronically submitted to them. So it automatically completes that application on their behalf.
Now, where do they get the application? I mean, if they go to, obviously it's on the web, but if they go to DWP, would DWP refer them to this website?
They could log in to the system and help them complete the application. You could have a kiosk there where the person who walked in to DWP could, at least start the journey themselves. I mean, one of the things that's very time consuming is getting all of the members of a household's names spelled correctly and entered in. And even if somebody just came in the door and did that much, suspended the application and then sat down with an assister. The assister is starting from a place of having some information already collected, so they're not starting from scratch.
What about
But they-
issues of security? I'm sure they come up.
Well, the data that is stored in OneEAP is all stored in Sacramento, is where our technology offices are located, and we store all of our client servers are housed at a data center that's located there, and we can provide any information on that. But it's one of the sort of a state-of-the-art data warehouse center where eBay has their
So
servers.
you would
and-
contract with the city, and
That's right.
and then I'm assuming the city attorney and the CAO would work with you to ensure
Appropriate
that we're
security.
protected from the security issues,
Usually people make a site visit up
reducing
to our.
reliability.
Yeah.
We, just so you guys know, we've been through a number of security audits by the state of California, by almost every county that we support. We have been through one by LA County. So we've gone through a lot of scrutiny with regard to the data storage, the confidentiality that's applied through the application level, as well as the site itself.
Okay, now, who pays for this?
Each one of the programs that needs to add their capability into the system is basically the payer for the service. At least that's how it's currently done.
So we have contracts. I've mentioned a variety of different counties. And in each county, there may be a different lead agency that holds the contract and that either assumes the responsibility of raising the funds or pays themselves for those funds. So in San Francisco, our contract is with the Department of Public Health. In Santa Clara, it's with the Santa Clara Family Health Plan. It just depends on the county.
Please.
Okay,
continue.
great. I'll just keep moving then. Just to remind you about the journey so far of OneEAP in Los Angeles, in February of 2007, it was incrementally rolled out to about 30 organizations for 5 children's health programs, and it's still being used by roughly that many organizations today, still just for those 5 kids programs. All of those programs allow for electronic submission of the application and then the supporting documentation. And so far, there's been about 21,000 kids who have had their applications submitted electronically via OneEAP. And there were a variety of partnerships that were at play to make that happen in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and many of those players are still at the table today. Most recently, the newest development that's going to move OneEAP on an important step forward is a pilot project with Los Angeles Unified School District, and Sharon Swanger is here to say a few words about that in a minute. But what that effort is going to do is dramatically expand the range of programs from those 5 kids programs and increase the number of programs, as well as allow us to test the application's use through other channels like kiosks and like some of these public access channels that we discussed. The pilot is going to launch in just another month and a half or so, and the funding for this came from Kaiser Permanente, Community Benefits of Southern California, and along with that funding came some resources to conduct a 3-year evaluation. This is a 3-year pilot. So we're excited about that opportunity, and it was that allowed us to have sort of a different conversation with CDD when we began the conversation with those folks. It was really starting from a different place of having more programs potentially in the system when they start their journey. And what we've discussed with CDD and DWP is the inclusion of 5 additional programs, and I apologize if I didn't call them exactly the right thing in terms of WorkSource investment and OneSource. But at a high level, it's the inclusion of these 5 programs. And those programs will be added to the health programs, which are currently in OneEAP, and the social services and other programs that are currently in the system. And so with that, I mean, that kind of goes back to your question, council member, about if someone comes in and is eligible for the handyman program, or the, would they be able to
Or
know?
ETC,
Pardon me?
or the earned income.
Or earned income tax credit is such an important one to have in there right now. We didn't add a single question to the application. They're all there when you ask someone the questions needed for Medi-Cal, frankly. And you can tell somebody that it looks like they may be eligible for $4,700 in an earned income tax credit, retroactive for 3 years. So right about now, when you may be telling a family...
That's a real problem right here in L.A., right?
That's, pardon me?
Isn't
Low-
that a real problem? Didn't I
Low
just see
uptake
where
of EITC
like
is
60,000
a
people were
statewide
getting
problem.
their checks from the state?
Yep.
It's actually a nationwide problem. It's a big gap in people's understanding about what they might be eligible for, and yet it could be a big safety net for a lot of these families.
Exactly. Stimulus money.
Yeah.
I mentioned the importance of electronic integration. This slide just calls out the interfaces that we have built to a variety of different systems. We're the only application in the state that's delivering data to those state systems, and as well as Kaiser and a couple of the others. And we're underway in discussions and contract negotiations with PG&E to be able to deliver data electronically for the CARE program.
Great.
So we've had a nice opportunity to work with the Public Utilities Commission and get to this place in our conversation, and we're looking forward to where that leads us. And
So if in a bureaucracy like the city of Los Angeles, where everybody's in different phases of working with you, do you just like start with one and grow from there? Or
yeah, let me bump up to this slide. So we thought it would be useful to explain the process a little. We would start with any new department with the existing One app. So if, let's pretend...
So it seems that the CDD is the furthest along, right?
That's right. And then and this is pretty much what we did with you guys, was say, here's One app. This is what's been built into the system. These are the features and the functionality. This is how it works. Let us demo it for you. And we walk through a complete application and demo the whole system. And then we step back and meet more in depth with the departments and their subject matter experts, people who really understand these programs. And we get to a place of identifying what is missing from One app, what would need to be added into One app, where do we need to make modifications to our rules engine. Are there some features that you need that we haven't built in? You might need a notification that pops up every 25 days that tells somebody to do XYZ. That's something we don't already have in here. So we kind of identify the universe of changes that are needed. Then we step back and say, okay, what is that going to cost? How long is it going to take? And what's the plan to implement those changes? And begin the dialogue about cost and timeline. Once we make it through that, and certainly the contracting piece, then our job is to take all of those directives back into the shop, do all the development, do the internal testing, then give it back to the department or the agency and the subject matter experts we've been working with and say, now you guys test it. Does it do what you told us to make it do? Does it work? And then we work together through the training and ultimately the go live. So far, we actually, I just didn't mention it. We have submitted a proposal to CDD based on what we've learned so far about and DPW, based on what we've learned so far.
DWP?
So sorry.
That's all right.
Yes.
I
DWP.
think it is DPW in Sacramento, isn't it?
It is, I think, in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But so far, we get those two pretty messed around in terms of getting it right.
Great. So the process is moving forward, and I'm assuming the departments have sufficient authority within their own departments to work with this. Do you have to come back to council on this, or?
Yeah, actually we would, and that's our proposal. So given that we're using both workforce investment and community services block grant funds, we'll be transmitting a formal report requesting the authority to execute an agreement with these folks.
Okay. And in the meantime, you'll be meeting with some of the other departments to see if there's compatibility there?
Yeah, I mean, that we would love to do that. It seems like there's nuances to all the programs that are important to know about out the door before we can know exactly what One app may be able to do to help. But that would, I mean, we're following the lead of the people.
Are there any other competitors in this field?
You know, there are some. In California, we are a different kind of organization as a nonprofit who's had the benefit of working closely with the state and has the...
So you are a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit. We were formed by the California Endowment and the California Healthcare Foundation several years ago.
Okay.
And we were given, basically, they behaved sort of as social venture capitalists who started up this nonprofit, which is now a self-standing nonprofit. We still enjoy some of the foundation support for some of our work. And over the course of the last few years have branched out into different states and different counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's see. Does anybody else have any questions that I should be asking? Yeah, go ahead.
What's the cost?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always
It-
the.
For us, it's a risk management kind of thing. It's like
Can you come up with the microphone, please?
1%.
Sir, can you come up and speak in the microphone, please, John?
My question is, what's the cost? Because for us, it's a risk management item to the extent we might get 1% of the applicants saying that they're over 65 or disabled, and they are not, and we're not verifying it, we're just taking their documentation that says that they are. And we see them every day because they're on our city ride vehicles, so
Right.
they look like they're
I would-
seniors
I
or
would assume
disabled.
that it's impossible for them to say how much it's going to cost you and you and you without really getting into the system. I'm assuming that they're honing in on that with CDD,
Exactly.
and that we'll get a proposal to the city. So that's why I didn't ask the question. It's an obvious question, but we weigh the cost versus benefits, and there's obvious benefits to be had, but yours is so specific, it may not be. I don't know. But in any case, it seems that we want to encourage the departments to have a conversation to see if there's an opportunity to improve our services.
I certainly would wonder what a general cost would be. You know, are we talking thousands or millions? You know, that kind of thing.
Kill the cat.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. I don't mean to. I would really have to see what the benefits are first before being able to. I mean, if she said 500,000, I have no idea what that means. You know, in terms of the benefit to your program or one of the others. Yeah.
Yeah, Councilman, the CLA is actually going to be preparing a report along with the CAO, and will include some options in terms of funding, and we'll assess the cost as well. We are going to be working with all these departments.
Cheaper if all the departments do it. I can tell you that.
Sure. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Jaime Pacheco of the Community Development Department. We've been working with OneEAP and trying to implement this in our WorkSource, OneSource system. What we found as an attractive feature was that it is simply augmenting current infrastructure in place. So it's not about developing from scratch and running these things separately. Most of the data that they collect already is data that we'll be collecting in our process. So we're just looking at incremental changes. You'll subsequently hear a conversation from LAUSD on their involvement. Information that they collect is information that we'll be able to piggyback off to minimize our investment. And as the gentleman said here, it's a cost-benefit analysis, but really the cost-benefit analysis is not a direct to the person you're interfacing with. It's the extended family that benefits from it. It's everybody else who has access to it. So while their investment might seem nominal, I would imagine a good portion of what they collect has already been collected somewhere. But the benefit to the participant is much greater than the ridership. It's everything else that comes with it.
Very good. So speaking of LAUSD, is Sharon Swanger here? Hi, Sharon. You don't have to leave.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Sharon Swanger, and I'm from the Division of Student Health and Human Services in Los Angeles Unified School District. And I coordinate a program in the district called the CHAMP program, and our goal is to enroll children into health insurance. And also what we all look at, not only to enroll children, we want to provide services that bring benefit to children and families. And because we have close to 700,000 children in our district, we're always looking at ways to improve that and that goal. We've been a OneEAP user for the last 2 years, and of the 30 organizations that actually use this in LA County, my unit does 26% of the applications. And and currently we're doing Medi-Cal, Healthy Families, Healthy Kids, and Kaiser, and CHDP. My staff reports that it increases their efficiency because it reduces this time that they're actually spent writing and filling out applications, and they can do an application now in about 30 minutes. They also report that it reduces errors because the system prompts them if they put in the wrong name, they put in a name and then they actually misspell at another point. They go, are you sure you want to do this? Or if you put one gender in and then you make a mistake. So there's prompts in the system that help them. The other thing is it's faster. The families in the past, when we did paper applications, it would take a month and a half to 2 months for families to get their benefits information card from Medi-Cal or Kaiser or whatever. Now families are getting them in 1 to 2 weeks. So my staff is really thrilled about this.
These people would come into the office and say, when am I getting my benefits?
Well, they call.
More time.
And we do our business, we have a call center, and we also have people that are in the field. But over the years, because of the budget reduction, my staff has gone from 21 people, we're down to like 7 people now. So we have, most of our people are in the office using the call center, and some are in the field. And so that's the other thing, too, is we're always investigating how we can do business better. And so we've come up, because we were funded by the center and us, funded by Kaiser to do this new pilot in LA County as a demonstration pilot. We're going to be investigating and using different types of kiosks that are going to be strategically placed throughout the school district, maybe at schools, Healthy Start sites, some of our school-based clinics, I'm in a variety of places. And the idea is to really advertise and let the families go in there and use the system themselves and see how far they can get in the system, and if they can get all the way through, or if they need assistance, they can call my staff to help them. And you didn't mention that adult Medi-Cal wasn't on your list. So we're going to be doing adult Medi-Cal also. In addition,
collapsed them for all.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Adult Medi-Cal. We're expanding the system to include adult Medi-Cal, TANF, WIC, food stamps, earned income tax credit, and low auto insurance, I guess. So anyway, that's it.
Thank you very much. So you strongly recommend it, or?
We are using it very effectively, and my staff loves it. So I co-chair one of the leadership committees in LA County with the different users that use this, and the people that use it the most, like LA Care, Northeast Valley Health Corporation, us, they all like it, a lot of their staff. Sometimes you have to keep using it, though, 'cause sometimes people use it one time and then they think, oh, they don't want to learn it. They're kind of opposed to doing new things. But if you use it consistently, you think, oh, it really is good. We're very happy using it. So I do recommend it.
So if somebody comes into the system 1 year, and then they come in through another place the subsequent year, and the information's changed, does it automatically change all the other information?
So if the place they came in the door in year 1 was a OneEApp user, and then they go into a OneEApp user year 2, they would need to just change the net new information and not start from scratch and change everything.
Okay.
The trick is you would want as much ubiquitous use of the system. If they go in and it's not a OneEApp user and some information has changed.
Well, what happens with a lot of people with poverty, they come in and out of the system.
That's right.
Kind of bob around, but if the information stays, then and even with our kids transferring from school to school.
I was going to say, one of the things that my staff likes is when we say the system, it's faster, they can get their information in 1 to 2 weeks. Sometimes our kids move around so fast, by the time they do get their information after 1.5 to 2 months, they're already moved on to another part of the city, other housing, and we can't get, so that's a problem.
I'm reminded with LAUSD that I introduced a bill for foster kids because they couldn't get their, when they would transfer from one high school to another, one school to another, they couldn't get their documents for weeks. And so the principals of the new school wouldn't let them in.
That's right.
And so my bill said basically you just had to let them in. And, but this is the kind of system or something similar to it.
Well, and it's and it's web-based, and so our ideas are not only to have kiosks, but some of the principals are saying, I have a computer lab. Why can't somebody come and we can bring parents in all at once? And, that's an idea that we're going to investigate. So I'm thinking as we roll this out, there'll be a lot of ideas and places where we can have this that maybe we haven't even thought of. So
great.
We're excited.
Thank you. To pull this all together and to tell us how we're going to move forward with this. We have Felipa Chavez from the CLA's office. as I said, to sort of put this all in one piece for the city of LA and see how we proceed from here.
Yes, sir. As instructed by your motion, we're going to be looking at, we're going to be conducting the research and analyses along with the help of all these city departments and outside agencies as well. We're going to look for potential efficiencies as well as benefits for the community and city departments as well. You know, we've done some research already, and you know, we're going to look at LA Unified's experience as well as a program they have in Arizona. There's a program at the state level by the Office of First Lady Maria Shriver that we're going to be looking as well. And doing some research, we found that there's other programs in other states as well, like Illinois, Kansas, and New York. So we'll be looking at that. We will be working closely with the CAO to determine, you know, the cost, and as well with the providers themselves. We have to look at, you know, whether this is an in-house venture that we may consider, or is it a better option to go and contract out, and whether it's better to do a sole source contract or do an RFP process. Another issue that we have been considering is that there may be potential funding from the 2009 ERA Act. So we'll be working with the CAO as well to see if that would be a program that could be funded.
In the meantime, if we get a proposal from a specific department, we can move forward with it. And
well, we're going to be working with each department, and then together we'll provide a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah, to the council.
Well, great. When you said other programs, you're talking about other programs that are similar to this?
Yeah.
But not one yet?
We'll look at it.
Just to get a comparison?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Great. But I do have to say that I don't know if those other organizations are nonprofits, but that says a lot. And particularly if it's initiated by the California Endowment, which has a great reputation.
Yeah, so far, from what I've seen in terms of testimony and the research we've done, this would seem like a very good program for the city.
Well, great. So we're going to be essentially waiting for CDD, right, to see how far along they get and present a proposal, or
we'll be reporting based on their recommendations. We'll be reporting to you in about 30 days.
Are you coming to this committee or to?
You can hold the item in your committee, but it's also been referred to the housing committee.
Well, maybe we can do a joint hearing on that piece.
Okay.
I would appreciate that. Great. I think we're done. Does anybody have any public comment? We don't have any cards. Is everybody happy? Pardon me? We're moving the motion to council? Oh, we haven't approved the motion yet? I mean,
well, you need to.
John White, City Clerk, you can hold the motion in committee pending the report being submitted if you like, or move the motion on to council.
I think we should wait till we get
right.
A little more clarification. I mean, I think the actual proposal, if CDD comes forward with one, that'll be very instructive. So, assuming that's moving, if it doesn't move within a month or two, let me know. And,
right.
And we'll do something else. But
okay.
Assuming they're going to come forward, we'll just combine it all together. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Well, with that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I just put it on the table, maybe, Bobby. I just didn't. Sorry.